So the chapter I'm going to start today is periodic table. So one of the most important functions is to search for order. This instinct led to the discovery of a systematic arrangement of elements. It is considered the most important achievement in the chemistry. When Moseley discovered atomic numbers in 1913, it was discovered that the atomic numbers could provide a basis for the systematic arrangement of elements. Thus, a modern periodic table shows the sequence of elements in order of increasing atomic number and their repeating properties. A table that shows the systematic arrangement of the elements is called the periodic table. So, it is based on the periodic law, which states that when elements are arranged in order of increasing atomic number, their properties repeat periodically. What are periods and groups of elements? The most commonly used form of the periodic table is shown in the figure 10.1. Based on the periodic table law, the elements are arranged in 7 horizontal rows, which are called periods. Elements with similar chemical properties on the same vertical columns. These columns are called the groups. So the horizontal rows are periods and vertical columns are groups. Note that elements are listed in ascending atomic number from left to right and from top to bottom. Hydrogen in the upper left corner, helium has atomic number 2. It is in the upper right corner. Lithium has atomic number 3. It is at the left end of the second row. Periods contain a variable number of elements. How many periods can you find in the periodic table? The number of elements per period varies from 2 in period 1 to 32 in period 7. Period 1 to 32 in period 7. The first 3 periods are called short periods and the rest are called long periods. The properties of the elements inside a period change gradually as you move from left to right in the loop. However, as you move from one period to next period, the pattern of features within a period repeats itself. This is in accordance with the periodic law. So the properties goes in a loop, and when we move from one period to the next period, the pattern of features repeats themselves. Each vertical column of the elements in the periodic table is called a group or family. How are groups numbered? Two numbering systems are used to designate groups in the traditional system, and according to the old IUPAC, the letters A and B are used. The first two letters 1A and 2A, while the last 6 groups are 3A to 8A, and the middle groups are in the group B. The International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry (IUPAC) in 1988 decided that groups would be 1 to 18 from left to right. Elements in the same group have the same number of valence electrons. The group number indicates the number of valence electrons in the element. For example, group 1 and group 2 elements have 1 and 2 valence electrons. Group 13 elements have group 3, group 14 have 4, group 15 have 5 valence electrons. It is important to note that in groups 13 to 18, the group number is equal to the number of valence electrons plus 10. So the group A elements are called normal or representative elements. They are also called main group elements. Group B elements are transition elements. Groups of elements in the periodic table have been given names based on the topmost element in the group. Some groups have been special names. For example, metallic elements in group 1 are alkali metals, group 2 elements are alkaline earth metals, group 3A or group 13 are boron family, group 6 or 16 are oxygen family, and they are also called the chalcogens. The elements of group 17 are called halogens, and the group 18 are the noble gases because they don't react, they are inert gases. So here we can see the periodic table, and in the periodic table we have the first element, that is hydrogen, and the elements of the first group are hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium and francium. So it's here we have the noble gases, that is helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon. So this is there we have the group that the group B elements, they are the transition elements, and they are in the middle of the periodic table. Like we start it from 1B, 2B, and then we are moving towards the left hand side, 3B, 4B, 5B, 6B, 7B and 8b. So two groups are called 8b. And these two rows that are present below the periodic table, these are the lanthanide and actinide series, and this is the F block. So now we are going to discuss about the blocks of the elements in the periodic table. So we have the 4 blocks S, P, D and F. So S block is the group 1 and 2 elements are S block elements. They are called group 1 elements are called alkali and group 2 elements are called alkaline earth metals. Now we have the P block 13 to 18 groups. Group 13 to 18, this is a P block, and they have the valence electrons, the p subshells, and they usually are metals and non-metals. Now we have the D block. D block is group 3 to 12, or it's also called the subgroup P, and it has valence electrons with D subshell. They are also called the transition metals. And F block, it's present at the bottom of the periodic table, and it's the F block, and the valence electrons, the F subshell. They are also called the lanthanides and actinides or inner transition metals. Position of an element in the periodic table. The electronic configuration of element provides basic information about its position in the periodic table. By examining the valence electron configuration and value and subshell type, you can identify an element's group, period and block. To determine the group of an element, you need to know the number of electrons in the valence electron. For example, if the electron you need to know the number of for the electron configuration of valence shell is 2s2 2p3. Since the total number of electrons are 5, it belongs to group 5a or 15. If an element belongs to p group, their group number is equal to the total number of valence electron plus 10. The n value of the valence shell of an element indicates its horizontal row on the periodic table. The periodic number is equal to the largest n value of the valence shell. For example, if the valence electrons of an element are the L shell, then it belongs to second period. Similarly, n is equal to 3, it belongs to third period. So here in the blue we have the metals, in the red we have metalloids, and in the green we have the non-metals. So this periodic table is also indicating we have the S block, and then the D block and the P block, and after that we have the F block. And the helium is also in the S block. Okay. You can determine the position of the element in the periodic table from its valence shell electronic configuration. Period number of an element indicates n value of the valence shell, whereas total number of electrons of valence shell represented group number of S block elements. But the total number of electrons of valence shell plus 10 represents the group number of P block. So when the electrons are in the P subshell, then we have to add 10 into that, so that we can better know the position of that element in the periodic table. Characteristic properties of elements in a group. A chemical periodicity refers to the repeating pattern of properties of elements in the periodic table. Elements within the same group generally have the same chemical properties because they have the same electronic configurations. For example, atomic size gradually increases from top to bottom in a group. Therefore, elements lower in group have larger atomic radii than the higher in the group. Ionization energy decreases within the group. So, when we move down the group, we have the lower ionization energy. Electronegativity decreases down the group. Therefore, elements further down the group are less electronegative than the elements present in the higher up. Metallic properties increases as you move down the group. Therefore, elements lower in the group have strong metallic properties. Chemical reactivity elements in the same group generally have same chemical reactivity because they have similar electronic configurations. So now we have examples. Find out the position of following elements in the periodic table. Nitrogen and oxygen. First we have to write their electronic configurations. For example, for the nitrogen 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. So the period number will be 2 because n is equal to 2. So group number will be 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. So nitrogen is present in the second period of the group 5a, so it will 5 plus 10 because the valence electrons are in the p subshell, so we have to add 10. 5 plus 10 is equal to 15, so the nitrogen will belong to group 15 or the group 5a. Now we have the oxygen, so the group number for oxygen is 6. 6 plus 10 is group 16. Okay, now phosphorus and neon. The periodic number of phosphorus is 3. So the valence shell is M, which has 2s and 3p subshells. The group number is V. So there are 5 electrons in the valence shell. 2 electrons fill the 3s subshell and remaining 3 fill the 3p subshell. Therefore, the electronic configuration will be 3s2 and 3p3. So n is equal to 3 and group number is V. So there are 5 electrons. Group V 5. Group number is 5. So there are 5 electrons. So the 3 electrons will fill the p subshell and 2 electrons will fill the s subshell. Now we have the periodic number of neon, which is 2. So n is equal to 2 and the valence shell is L. The valence electron exists in 2s and 2p subshells. The group number of neon is 8. This means that there are 8 electrons in the valence shell. 2 electrons fill the 2s subshell and the remaining 6 will fill the 2p subshell. So the electronic configuration will become 2s2 and 2p6. So just by knowing the period number and by knowing the group number, we can easily write the electronic configuration of the element. Now we have another topic, that is metals, non-metals and metalloids. So the periodic table is generally divided into 3 categories: metals, non-metals and metalloids. Metals appear on the left hand side, shown by the grey color. Metals are good conductors, malleable and ductile. Non-metals are present on the right side and shown by the yellow color. They are bad conductors, non-malleable, non-ductile. A blue ladder line separates metals from the non-metals. So this blue ladder line contains the metalloids. The elements adjacent to this ladder line showed by blue color are the metalloids. Metalloids possesses the properties of both metals and non-metals, or they are generally called the semi-metals. Like we have the boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, tin, tellurium and polonium. Periodicity of properties. So we have different properties in the periodic table, like electron affinity, electronegativity, atomic radius, metallic character. So we have to study these properties in order to know the chemical nature of the elements and how they react. Basically, they tell us about the chemical properties that our elements are showing. So remember that electronic configuration of elements shows a periodic fluctuation with increasing atomic number. Therefore, the physical and chemical properties of the elements vary in a periodic manner. Elements with similar valence shell electronic configuration are placed in the same group. Chemical properties depend on the electronic configuration of the valence shell. Because all elements in a given group have a similar valence shell electronic configuration, they have similar chemical properties. Physical properties depend on the size of the atoms. Because the size of the atoms change gradually from top to bottom, therefore the elements show a gradation of physical properties within the same group. In the period of periodic table, the number of electrons in the valence shell increases gradually from left to right. Their chemical and physical properties also differ in the same way. Now we have the electron affinity, that is the first property. It is basically the amount of energy released when an electron adds up in the valence shell of an isolated atom to form a uninegative gaseous ions. It is also called first electron affinity. So when an electron is added up in the isolated atom, like x plus electron gives us x minus plus electron affinity. So there are three factors that affect the electron: nuclear charge, atomic size, and shielding effect. Okay, what is nuclear charge? Nuclear charge is basically it affects like affinity tends to increase from left to right. This is mainly due to the increasing nuclear charge. The number of protons in the nucleus increases, the attraction of the electrons also increasing, and makes it easier to for the atom to accept the additional electron. So when that additional electron will add into the shell, so the electron affinity, which is the amount of energy released, it will increase. So the electron affinity tends to increase from left to right. Now we have the atomic size. So atomic size, electron affinity generally decreases from top to bottom. This is due to the increase in the atomic size. So the nucleus will be far away from the electrons. So it will be difficult for the nucleus to attract an extra electron, to accept the extra electron. So the electron affinity generally decreases. Electron affinity means the love for the electron, the attraction towards the electron. So when the size is larger, and it will be difficult for the nucleus to attract the electrons. So the electron affinity generally decreases from top to bottom. Now we have the shielding effect. So the electrons in the inner shells partially shield the outer electrons from the attraction of the nucleus. The more inner shells there are, the more the outer electrons are shielded. The shielding effect can lead to decrease in electron affinity. So this is probably that is the reason that electron affinity is affected by the shielding effect. It usually decreases. So as you move from left to right, the electron affinity increases due to increase in the nuclear charge and decrease in the atomic size, which binds an extra electron more tightly. So again they are saying the same things. The shielding effect remains the same in a period. The electron affinity decreases from top to bottom in a group. This is due to increase in the shielding effect. Due to increased shielding effect, increased atomic size, the added electron binds less tightly to the nucleus. As a result, less energy is released. So the electron affinities of the main group elements. So minus 73 for hydrogen, lithium minus 60, sodium minus 53. So this is the electron affinities, and helium has 0 electron affinity. Argon, it means that noble gases doesn't have electron affinities at all. They don't accept electron. So there are some other trends in the periodic table, and so first one is the metallic behavior. So metals are usually found on the left side. They tend to lose the electron and form cations, which is the definition of the metal. Obviously, metals usually have 1 to 3 valence electrons. Their ionization energy is very low, therefore metals can easily lose electrons. In addition, metals have low electronegativity and do not attract the electrons. Non-metallic behavior is usually seen on the right side, and non-metals have the tendency to gain or share electrons. They have 5 to 7 valence electrons, and they need a few more electrons to complete their valence shells. They have high ionization energies, and this makes them less likely to lose electrons and more likely to share or gain the electrons. High ionization energy means that they will require a very high amount of energy to remove the electron from their outermost shell. Non-metals also have high electronegativity, which allows them to easily gain the electrons. Trends in groups. Group 1 alkali metals have a strong metallic character. Group 17 halogens have a strong non-metallic character. As you move down the group, the metallicity of the group 1 element increases. This is due to the increase in the atomic radii. So the electrons will be easy to remove. When the atomic radii is high, the size of the atom is large, then it will be easier to remove the loosely bound electrons, valence electrons. But as we move, we go below group 17, non-metallic behavior decreases. This is due to the increase in atomic radii and decrease in their ability to attract electrons. So in group 14, which consists of carbon, silicon, germanium, tin, lead, the non-metallic character decreases and the metallic character increases down the group. So down the group, the non-metallic character decreases and metallic character increases. Carbon is a typical non-metal. Silicon and germanium are metalloids. Tin and lead are typical metals. So the non-metallic behavior decreases. I just want to figure out this point. Just a minute. The non-metallic behavior. Okay. So basically, when we are moving to group 17, so here they have to write the metallic behavior decreases. This is due to the increase in atomic radii and decrease in their ability to attract electrons. For example, in group 4a, which consists of carbon, silicon, germanium, and tin and lead, the non-metallic character decreases and metallic character increases down the group. Okay. For example, it's a non-metal, metalloids, and the metals. I think they have written something like in a very confusing way, but here the point is that carbon is a typical non-metal, silicon and germanium are metalloids, and tin and lead are typical metals. So we also studied in the metallic character that the metallic character increases down the group. Okay, so this is the point here. Okay, moving towards the electronegativity and the type of bond. The electronegativity difference of the bond between two bonded atoms gives a rough indication of the expected nature of the bond and hence bond type. When the difference is greater than 1.8, the bond is ionic. When the difference is between 0.4 to 1.8, the bond is polar, and when the difference is less than 0.4, the bond is covalent. So this means the ionic character in bond decreases with an increase in the difference of the electronegativities of the bonded atom. The electronegativity difference between group 1 and 2 metals and group 16 and 17 non-metals is large. Therefore, bonding between them is ionic, like we see in the NaCl. It has electronegativity difference of 2.23, which is quite higher and favors the ionic bond. In MgO, the electronegativity difference is 2.13. It's an ionic bond. CH electronegativity difference is 2.35. It's a non-polar covalent bond and which is less than 0.4. Okay, and for the HF, the electronegativity difference is 1.78 and it favors the polar covalent bond because it is between the 0.4 to 1.8. Now we have the trends in chemical properties. First is the reaction with oxygen. So group 1 and group 2 metals, they react with oxygen to give metal oxides and metal peroxides. Like sodium is a silvery white soft metal. It is extremely reactive and it combines with oxygen, chlorine and water. In a limited supply of oxygen, sodium burns to form sodium oxide, but in the excess of oxygen it forms pale yellow sodium peroxide. Magnesium is a relatively hard and also an extremely reactive element. When ignited, magnesium burns in oxygen with an intense white flame to give solid magnesium oxide. So 2 Mg plus O2 gives us 2 MgO. Reaction with chlorine. Sodium burns in chlorine with a bright yellow flame and producing a white solid sodium chloride. Magnesium also burns with chlorine with intense white flame and white solid magnesium chloride is obtained. So the flame color for the reaction between magnesium and oxygen is white, and the flame color for the sodium is always yellow flame. Reaction with water. So sodium reacts violently with cold producing hydrogen. So when sodium reacts with water, it gives sodium hydroxide. So this reaction occurs with a light explosion. Magnesium slowly reacts with cold water to form a thin layer of magnesium hydroxide on its surface, which forms a protective coating that stops further reaction. In steam, however, magnesium burns with a white flame, forming magnesium oxide and hydrogen. So in the cold water, it forms a layer of magnesium hydroxide, and it's a protective layer, and it won't get into the further reactions. But in the steam, when magnesium burns with a white flame, it gives magnesium oxide and hydrogen. So the reaction with water metals the reaction of metal with the water gives us the hydroxides, or in the case of magnesium, it gives the metal oxides. And with the non-metals, it will give the salts, and with the oxygen, it will always give some oxide. There are variations in the oxidation number of oxides and chlorides. Let's see. Oxidation number of an element in oxides and chlorides corresponds to the number of electrons used for the bonding. The maximum oxidation number of an element is the same as the total number of valence electrons. It is always positive, since oxygen and chlorine are more electronegative than other elements. For example, in period 3, which consists of sodium, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur and chlorine. In the oxides of these elements, we have the manganese oxide, magnesium oxide, aluminium oxide, silicon oxide, phosphorus pentaoxide, sulfur trioxide, and its chlorate. So the maximum oxidation number increases in the period from +1 in sodium, +2 in magnesium, +3 in aluminium, +4 in silicon, +5 in phosphorus, +6 in sulfur, and +7 in chlorine. So it depends on the number of electrons that are used for the bonding. The maximum oxidation number is the same as the total number of valence electrons. So it's a positive value, because these are electronegative. Like for the sodium, it can lose 1 electron, magnesium can lose 2 electrons, so they have that oxidation number according to their nature. Phosphorus and sulfur show variable oxidation states because they can expand their octet. In SO2, sulfur oxidation number is +4, but in SO3 it has the oxidation number of +6. Reaction of oxides with water. Metal oxides are generally basic in character. This is because they produce bases in water. Non-metallic oxides generally acidic because they produce acids in water. So metallic oxides are Na2O, MgO. When they react with water, they produce the bases, and the carbon dioxide plus water gives the carbonate, and phosphorus, it's a deca oxide, or the O10, so it will react with water to form phosphoric acid. So when the metallic oxide reacts with water, it gives the bases, and when the non-metallic oxides react with water, it gives the acids. The basic nature of oxide decreases. Basic character of oxide decreases as we move along a period. This indicates decrease in the metallic character. Also, the electronegativity difference between these elements or oxygen decreases as we move across the period. So the bonding character also changes from ionic to covalent. Oxides of sodium and magnesium are ionic compounds. They possess high melting and boiling points. They are soluble in water. Their aqueous solutions are good conductor of electricity. So the bonding character also changes from ionic to covalent. Oxides of sodium and magnesium are ionic, and they have all the properties of ionic bonds. And other oxides are covalent, like the oxides of phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine. They exist as gaseous molecules. They have low melting and boiling points, and they have the properties of covalent bonds. So the elements of third period form oxides like sodium oxide, magnesium oxide, aluminium oxide. So these oxides turn from strongly basic to weakly basic, amphoteric, weakly acidic, and strongly acidic. Now we have the table, and we will further look into this. The third period, we have sodium, magnesium, aluminium, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, and chlorine. Oxides, they have these oxides. So strongly basic is sodium oxide, strongly basic. Then we have the basic magnesium oxide, then Aluminium trioxide is a amphoteric. It has the properties of both bases and acids. Now we have the silicon dioxide, which is weakly acidic, then acidic, then strongly acidic, and very strongly acidic. Cl2O7 is a very strongly acidic oxide. Oxides and hydroxides of sodium are strongly basic. They react with acids to form salts, like Na2O plus HCl gives us NaCl, and NaOH plus HCl gives NaCl. Similarly, oxides and hydroxides of magnesium are strongly basic but less basic than those of sodium. So the magnesium oxides are basic but they are less basic than the sodium, like we have in the chart. Oxide and hydroxide of aluminium are amphoteric, so they can react with both acids and bases. Like Al2O3 plus 2NaOH plus water gives us 2NaAlOH4, sodium aluminate. Or the Al2O3 plus HCl gives us 3AlCl3 plus 3H2O. Now we have the reactions of chlorides with water. So metal chlorides such as sodium chloride and magnesium chloride are ionic in nature. They dissolve in water forming a neutral solution. These solutions have pH of 7. On the other hand, aluminium chloride, silicon tetrachloride and phosphorus pentachloride are covalent compounds. They are soluble in water but they react more vigorously with water, forming acidic solutions. So the oxides like sodium chloride and metal chlorides, sodium chloride, magnesium chloride, they are ionic in nature and they form the neutral solutions in the water. But the covalent chlorides that have the covalent nature, they form the acidic solution in the water. Like we have AlCl3 plus water gives us AlOH3 plus 3HCl. So pH is 3, which is acidic. On the other hand, we have SiCl4, PCl5, so they will also they are also generating the HCl, so they have the pH of 0, so they are basically giving the acidic solutions. Type of chemical bonding in chlorides and oxides. So ionic compounds usually have higher melting and boiling points. So covalent compounds have low boiling and freezing points. They do not conduct electricity. So these specific properties help us to distinguish between the ionic and covalent nature of compounds. Trends in ionization energy, electron affinities of group 1 and group 17. So group 1, increase in shielding effect, increase in atomic radii. Both factors reduce the attraction between the nucleus and the valence electrons. Therefore, removing electrons require less energy. As you move from the 17th group, the electron affinity decreases. This is due to the same factors. These factors reduce the attraction between the nucleus and incoming electron, although fluorine is most electronegative, and its electronegative affinity is lower than that of chlorine. This is because the atomic size of fluorine is much smaller than that of chlorine. Thus, the incoming electron is repelled by the electron of fluorine. So, electron affinity of the fluorine is less than the chlorine. This is due to the small size of the fluorine, and it doesn't have any space and it will just repel the incoming electron. Identification of an unknown element. So this is quite interesting. Like we have the atomic number that is 19 and it's a highly reactive metal and reacts violently with the hydrogen gas. So we have to figure out that which element is this. Atomic number 19, first of all we will write the electronic configuration. So we have the valence electron in the s subshell and we have n is equal to 4. So basically it will belong to period 4 and belong to the group 1. S1 means the group 1 and it's a alkali metal, so it's a potassium. Its position is confirmed by its electronic configuration and its reaction with water, because alkali metals react violently with water, so it's an alkali metal. Example 2 is atomic number 17. So it is a diatomic molecule. We know that it's a chlorine, but we have to write its electronic configuration, and then we will figure out that which element is this. P is equal in the P is equal to 5. So it has basically the 5 plus 2, 7 electrons in the outermost shell, and the period will be 3, and 7 plus 10 is 17, so it will belong to group 17 and the period will be 3. So it's a diatomic molecule, so it's Cl2, because chlorine exists in the diatomic form and forms salt like NaCl. Identifying position of an unknown element. Suppose you have an element having atomic number 35. So first of all we will write its electronic configuration, and it has 4s2, 3d10 and 4p5. So valence shell electronic configuration is 4s2 and 4p5, which shows it contains 7 electrons. So this is unknown element will be placed in the group 17 or the group 7a. The n value of the valence shell is 4, so the period will be 4. Based on its position in the periodic table, you can predict its properties. For example, does it have a higher or lower melting point, density or reactivity than the element above or below? You can also predict the chemical behavior. For example, you can predict the following properties. So it is a non-metal. It must be diatomic molecule. It forms an acidic oxide which is more acidic than that of chlorine. Its maximum oxidation state would be 7, combines with metals and forms acid with hydrogen. So basically it will belong to the group 17, and it's a halogen. It's a non-metal, and it's more acidic. Its oxide more acidic than that of chlorine, and oxidation state would be +7. So they haven't mentioned the name of this, but we can figure out it from the periodic table. Okay, so we can see from the periodic tables in the group 4, period 4, 1 2 3 4. So it's basically bromine. So that was all from the periodic table today. Thanks for listening.